so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and present this, and I trust that you will, kind of, ask me to stop at any point if something is unclear. So let us get started. So like I mentioned, I've been doing testing for the last 10 years. I don't think I'm a very smart person. So when I started testing, I tested pretty much everything. We tested page layouts, we tested add to cart button colors, we tested everything. And then very quickly, I started realizing that, that there are certain themes of tests, there are certain types of tests that actually we had better control on the outcomes. So what I mean by that is that, you can change the layout of a page and you'll get some kind of a result, but it's not representative. So you actually run the test again after 6 months and you find that it's not playing itself out, which means that it was either a very light improvement that kind of in the short term horizon, was registering an improvement, but we weren't able to get sustained. We were looking for sustained results, and that we got through copywriting. So what I want to just kind of get into the checklist. Now, we've done hundreds and hundreds of copywriting experiments, and we've identified a few key themes that, at least from our perspective, are the most effective. And it turns out that all of these themes are appealing to the system one side of the buyer. And I'm going to go through these very quickly. Number one is that shoppers are very skeptical of too good to be true. So if you have a product that is truly incredible, don't be super excited. Be aware of the fact that, okay, wait a minute, if this is so good, then we need to address that. We need to address that so good part, right? And I'll show you guys an example for each of them. The next thing we know, what we found, again, this is not just my opinion, this is something we've tested rigorously, is that buyers find expertise very sexy. They really like to buy, just the way when my doctor tells me I need to, lose some weight, I just am so enamored by his advice that I would do it. My wife complains all the time and I just don't listen to her. There is something about, expertise that really matters. So as a copywriter, you have to ask yourself, how are we illustrating our expertise? Because obviously we are the best in the world at the products that we've invented. So we really have to demonstrate that expertise. So that's one. The next one is that buyers are very influenced by implied messages. And I know this sounds a little cryptic. I'll show you guys an example. The next one is that we root for the underdog. This is, again, a very primal instinct where we want to support people or businesses or ideas that are under disadvantage. Apple has used this beautifully when they were, competing against Microsoft.
The Mac versus PC ads, right?
Of course, now they're in a different situation and they've changed their marketing. But at that point, it was to their advantage to play to the underdog theme. And that's very persuasive. Buyers are fascinated by surprising details. So what surprising details? Products have amazing surprising details. And what happens is that because we see those details so much, they become very kind of common to us. But it's not common. Remember one thing, that the people that are buying on your website have never seen your website before. As much as you think your website is awesome and you know every nook and corner of your website, a typical buyer on your website has never seen your website before and will probably never see it again. So you want to make sure that those details that to you seem kind of like, well, everyone knows this, those details are presented. So those surprising details really matter. Also, the next one is that we are visual animals. We are incredibly visually drawn. So how do we use visuals to tell a story? Also, we're very lazy. We want to conserve energy. So if I'm looking for a blender, one of the questions that I have is that, am I going to have to now go back to Google and find 15 other blenders to compare against this blender? And if the page that I'm on can convince me that there is no need to do that, that really appeals to my lazy side. And so as a copywriter, how do we communicate that? And we'll show an example for that as well. There are a few other things. One is that given a chance, the buyer will second guess. So I'll show you an example of this, and it's very effective mechanism. We need motivation to break habits. This is the biggest thing, is that marketers are always thinking about, how do I get someone who's looking to buy my blender to not buy other blenders that are out there? That is the wrong competition. I'm not saying the other blenders don't exist, but your biggest competitor is non-blenders. It's the consumer that he's been successful, has managed somehow without a blender and has lived their life. Getting them from non-consumption to consumption is a really big hurdle. So that's what you need to figure out as a copywriter, is how do I get this person to break a habit they've already formed over a couple of years. The next aspect is that we like interacting. We are a very interactive species. So how do we get them to interact with our copy? This is something that is, I'll show you some very fun examples with that. The buyer likes knowing that they've stumbled onto something rare. So that's an important thing. And then of course we're narcissistic and we hate bad news. So that is our checklist. Whenever we write copy, we kind of go through this checklist. Every time we write copy, we go through the checklist again to make sure that some of these themes are being used. I'm not suggesting that all of these themes have to be used in every single piece of copy that you write. But as a copywriter, if you are and a marketer, if you are aware of these emotional themes, then you can use them effectively. So the checklist will be quite useful as you're writing copy. So that's my checklist. I can actually get